Hello again! So last month you may have noticed I was drawing dragons that were inspired or based off of different types of trees because I really wanted to. Actually, the inspiration basically came from the first dragon, which was a maple dragon, and the reason is that we went out and actually tapped a handful of maple trees this year. We haven't tapped them previously, but my grandmother, who recently passed away, had a lot of maple buckets and taps because she used to tap a lot of trees on her own property, and we got a handful of those from her house when we were helping clean up. So we had set out the taps and some buckets. We actually got enough syrup to make one whole bottle of maple syrup. It took a few weeks. But in any case, while we were doing that, I thought how cute it would be to draw like a little maple tree dragon, and then I thought I should do a whole month of different tree dragons, so fruit trees and flowering trees and regular trees. So the first one was this little maple guy, and I had fun trying to incorporate some of the shapes of the maple leaves into the wings, the seeds into the tail there, and then I tried to also kind of replicate the leaf shapes in the little plates along the spine. I thought that was kind of cute. And then I decided I wanted to do it, I was trying to decide between doing it like bright autumn colors, like that's what maple leaves are usually really known for, is how brightly colored they are in the fall, or if I should do something a little more related to like a spring maple tree. And then I decided to kind of split the difference, and I went with just like a natural bark color, and then I went in and I colored everything else. I'm about to interject with my shitty phone mic. I just painted all of this and I forgot to hit record, so I'm very sorry. I'm sorry. Oh my god. Anyways, look, he's kind of cute. Sorry about the wild zooming. I was very, very annoyed that the entire recording didn't happen. But once I was done adding in these like nice more rich colors, I did that bronze in behind. And then the next dragon that I did was a Sumac Dragon. So I don't know if you've heard of Sumac. It's I want to say a tree. I mean, that's why I did it the way I did it, because again, this actually grows on my grandmother's property, and the sumac plants, like the trees, get really, really tall, and they have no leaves along the bottom. They basically kind of, the trunk of the tree just stays bare, and then the top has a big, long, wide canopy of these, like I drew the like leafy, almost fern-like leaves. And it's really interesting looking. They don't look like, well, they don't belong here. They're not from Canada originally, I believe. They're from Asia. But they were brought here. They spread real fast. They're kind of invasive, I guess. But they also create a berry that is very tart and can be used in cooking or preserves if you want. And so my plan this year, actually, I took some sumac from my grandmother's property and moved it to ours. It won't make any berries this year, obviously. It's just going to be little. But my plan is this year to try to drive around when it's the season for them, see if I can find some sumacs that aren't specifically on anyone's property, and pick some of those berries for myself. But with the Sumac Dragon, I decided to do the leaf shape in the sort of frill in behind the head and in the defining feathers almost on the wings, as well as in the end of that tail. I also decided to do them more like a wyvern, is that what I'm thinking of? Where they have the front legs but no back legs and wings as well. Or I guess no, that's the opposite. Wyverns have back legs and no front legs. I didn't want to give it all the legs, so I didn't. And then I went in and I used that berry cluster to make, is it berries or is it flowers? Wow, I don't know enough about sumac, but I used the clustering, like fruiting part, the part that you eat, to make that horn and then the tip of that tail, which I thought was a really fun way to bring in those shapes and that color and kind of brighten it up a little bit. It did dry down a little more muted than I expected, but oh well. The third dragon I worked on is a crabapple tree dragon. A lot of people thought it was a sakura, like a cherry blossom tree, and the flowers do look very, very similar between cherry blossoms and crabapples. The flowers have this not tight, I guess it's like a 5-petal small flower. The petals all like blow off when they're in season. As they sort of finish their cycle, they'll blow all the leaves or the petals off. It's very beautiful. And we have a giant crabapple tree in our yard that's very old. Ours is all white flowers, but I decided to go with the pink because I thought that would contrast really nicely with like a dark brown bark. And when I was thinking about how my crabapple tree looks when it's in full bloom, it basically looks like there's just a big flowering bush almost on the top. Like the flowers look like they're their own big massive structure, like there's no leaves, there's just flowers almost. And I thought it'd be nice to do that on the top of the head, sort of like a big curly hairdo almost, or an afro almost, but it's basically just supposed to be a big cluster of the flowers sitting on top of the head. And then I went through and I kind of added some more flower clusters along the back and the spine, and I gave it little dainty legs and little like branch antlers. I decided this dragon wasn't going to have any wings. I don't know, I just felt like shaking it up a little bit. But I did like the idea of having a really, really thick tail, because it made me think of the trunk of the tree, which the crab apples and a lot of apple trees will have like a sturdy trunk, and then a lot of this big crown of branching branches. And I just really enjoyed trying to find different ways to kind of play with the shapes. Again, because I didn't want them all to look the same. I didn't want to look like I took the same dragon base and just put different features on it. So I had a lot of fun with this one. And I also included the crabapple, like the actual flower shape you'll see in the background when I go in and do that. I basically just did some neutral shapes, or lineless shapes, sorry, that were in this like iridescent paint that I have. And the crabapple blossoms, the pink ones I've seen, are like almost magenta. Like they're very, very, very vibrant. They're not that pastel soft pink like a cherry blossom is. Although in the end this dried down a little bit later than I was expecting it to. They're almost like I said, like a magenta. Like they're very, very pink. Fuchsia. I think fuchsia is the color I'm thinking of. But I do a lot of pastel colors. So I didn't go too heavy-handed. I was also trying to kind of blend the pink in so that places where I would go back over with that dark brown would sort of have a pink undertone to them. And yeah, although I kind of like this color, looking back on it now, just this white with that soft pink looks really pretty. If I had done a tree that was white, maybe a birch tree. A birch tree would have been cool. Their leaves in the fall turn a nice yellow. We have a lot of birch on our property as well. That would have been an interesting one. Maybe if I do another dragon in the future, I'll add that in. Although this one was very fun to design, and I did like the colors I chose for it, it's actually probably my least favorite of all the designs. I don't feel like I was very creative with the body and incorporating the shapes like I was with some of the other dragons. But I still had fun painting it. I always do have fun painting. I just think if I went back, I'd probably change some things about it. Maybe change the design even more. Probably make it look a little more dragony, a little less dog-like. I find it's a little too Afghan hound looking, which I think I can attribute to the like clusters of flowers that I added to the backs of the legs and that like fluff on the chest. That definitely made it look more furry than scaly. Not that dragon couldn't be furry, I guess. They are a magical creature, so they could be whatever you want. But for what I would have liked to have done with it, I think I would go back and change some of those things. This brown, I've done this before, and I'll probably keep using it. It's hard to work with this way, but it's this pen I have, or a water brush almost pen. It's pre-filled with this like brown ink, or it might be watercolor. I got it from a art subscription box, so it's like the names on it are in Japanese. It's hard. I don't know how to read it. But
It lifts really easily, but it makes this really beautiful wash whenever I use it as just a brown on its own, so I have to be careful. I tend to like mix it with something else in hopes that that will adhere it down, but I always love the way that brown comes out. It's so like pigmented and nice. And here are those cherry blossom shapes, so like that 5-petal kind of ruffled petal shape. And I was using some golden iridescent acrylics. Wow, come on, brain. Some golden acrylics in this like red hued iridescence, because I thought that looked really nice. And in the light, it shimmers and shines. And the last dragon I worked on was actually the one that I'm using for the Patreon print for next month, as well as the stickers. So this last one is a grafted apple tree dragon. I decided to do 2 very different looking dragons to combine. I didn't really specifically base them off of any one apple type. I guess the green one could be like a Granny Smith because it's tart, it's sharp, it's pointy. I don't know. But most apple types are just the apple with different colorations. So I kind of just wanted to do something slender and skinny and almost like snake-like, and then one that was more chubby and chunky. Since I ended up on my stream for my patrons doing some practice for this design, we ended up making them very dinosaur-like, and I actually really like that. I made the little red one sort of like a Brontosaurus or Diplodocus. I like saying Diplodocus. I don't know if it's right. It's probably not right. And then the longer, skinnier one, not after any specific dinosaur, but I was trying to keep that like dinosaur look, so I moved the nostrils up to the forehead on them, and I again kind of kept it just, I don't know, a little more reptilian. I know dinosaurs aren't reptiles, but for the sake of descriptors, I kind of made it reptilian to make it suit. And then I just went in and I did these guys in a green and a red. For the print, I did punch up the colors a little bit because again they dried down a lot softer than I was intending. And here I went back in with water to all the places that I found I kind of went too heavy-handed. I wanted it to be like almost white, very peachy, not peachy, very pale on certain parts of it, and then I wanted the remainder to be like a very sharp color, because I wanted to make it look almost like the apple slices, which you'll see when I add in like the seeds and some of the other details. But I wanted the Brontosaurus one to look very round and appley, and the other one, in order to get those shapes out of what an apple is, I decided to make it like a sliced apple. So I thought that would turn out really cute. So yeah, I had to go back in and use water to basically like ruin where I had painted, so that it would hopefully lighten up. So you can see that it makes like a weird texture. The better option is to just do it right from the very beginning, but sometimes you screw up and you have to do what you have to do. I also added some more like purpley tones to the Brontosaurus one to kind of give it some more depth. And then you see here I painted over some of those weird textures I made with the water, just by using a darker green to kind of disguise that mistake. And then I also, yeah, you'll see here this nice purpley color. I thought it was a good accent to the red. You'll see that kind of color on like a lot of like Macintoshes and those types of apples, where they have this like almost purpley bruised color that goes along. And then here are the seeds that I added to the like apple slice areas on the little dragon. When I did the stickers, I definitely made them a little more vibrant, and I played with those shapes a little bit more since they were 2 separate creatures, instead of one combined creature, but it was very fun. Also, wait for your paint to dry before you fill in sections, or you'll do like I do and paint everything brown. I also went back in and tried my best to add a little more depth and a little bit more vibrant red to the red apple half of the dragon. And I think I said before, these are grafted apple dragons, so if you haven't seen how a lot of apples are farmed, you take a base tree that's very hardy and strong, and then you take branches from other types of apples and you put them onto that base trunk, and that allows you to grow a bunch of apples that may not do as well because they're not as strong in that area, but use the base trunk as the way to like survive it. So I thought it'd be neat if there was this tree that had both this red apple and a green apple grafted together onto it. Also, if you're interested in supporting me financially, you can join my Patreon. The link is in the description. You can see works in progress, join my Discord, get early access to videos, join private streams, and there's also a tier with physical rewards for stickers or prints, which you'll see here at the end of the video. And in the meantime, I'd like to thank my current patrons for helping me do all this. So there is Whiny, Charlotte Mitchell, So Spice, Audrey McAvoy, Olivia White, Sarah Flanagan, Philippa Riggs, Tasha Red Fox, Freddie Norvell, Rory, Jesse Skrill, and Andrew Wilson. Thanks so much. Bye!